Hello, I'm Jeff Myers, and welcome to Elgin Today. On this edition, we see some of the Elgin photographers and their photos as part of the art exhibit called Nature of Elgin at the Elgin Public Museum. This is the new Larkin Avenue crosswalk, making it easier for Larkin students to cross a busy avenue, as we hear from Councilmember Rose Martinez and Public Works Director Aaron Neal. The mayor's segment will deal with what the future of the Elgin Dam will be, as his guest will be the City Public Service Director, Mike Pubentz. We'll have these stories and more on this edition of Elgin Today. Larkin High School is just to my right and Larkin Avenue just to my left. This has always been a dangerous intersection, if you will, Larkin, to get across the street for the students. So we have brought out Rose Martinez because you and your person right here, Aaron, have taken a look at this and come up with a solution. Is that right? Of crossing Larkin.
Yes, that's right. It's been Aaron Neal, Aaron Cosentino, Sergeant Rick Demir. It's been a few people that I had this idea that we needed to put a fence. This has been going on for at least 50 years.
Yes,
For decades, for generations. And the city has changed a lot in many ways. The traffic has changed. Larkin High School was meant to be a high school where students would walk to school. But now Larkin has changed, Larkin Avenue has changed where rather than being a two-way street, it's a four-way street, and then it has that middle street. It has changed where there's more businesses. It has changed where buses come. Students are bused. It's now an academy as well. And we needed to do something. You know, why do we have to wait for somebody to get hurt before we do something? So talking to Aaron is the person who you give him the ideas and he works magics. You know, Aaron Neal, Aaron Cosentino, I call Aaron Cosentino the magic man.
Yeah,
and so
we like that.
We gave him, I said, this is what we need to do, and they just went ahead and did it. And Aaron Neal can go ahead and give you the history of how this came about and what we've been doing so far.
So from your concerns, we went to Aaron and you went and got things done. So that's great. It looks great, doesn't it?
Thanks, Jeff. Yeah. So Rose came to the city in 2021 with this idea, and we put some funds in the budget in 2022. We did some traffic studies. We had a couple renderings of ideas of what we wanted to do, which was not only the refuge island and mid-block crosswalk, but we wanted to put a fence in as well to help herd, for a lack of better word, all of the pedestrians to the proper locations to cross the street. We interacted with businesses, Bear Family and the McDonald's. We talked to the folks at Beef Villa to make sure that they were on board with this. And beginning late last year, 2022, we started with the installation of the fence down the frontage of Larkin Avenue as well as McLean Boulevard. It began to keep the kids on the sidewalk and pushed them to the signalized intersection at Larkin and McLean, as well as here. And then just 2 months ago, right before school started, the RRFB, our rapid flashing rectangular crosswalk. That's
easy for you to say.
Tell me about it. Was installed and put in service. And now what we're seeing is kids are crossing where they're supposed to cross. No one is crossing mid-block, and things are working well. What some people don't know is that Larkin Avenue gets 15,000 cars a day.
Wow.
It's a lot of vehicle traffic.
We hear most of them right now.
We do. They're all in our background.
That's right.
But 15,000 cars, as well as kids crossing, and they want to get to McDonald's. They want to get their hamburgers.
Yeah.
So they'll dart out in the middle of the street. And that's just not safe. So we came up with this, and it seems to be working well so far.
Wonderful. We've been watching you and Aaron cross because we want to make sure that, so we have a little video of that. So that's going to be a proud moment. You want to remind the kids that there's buttons to continue to push, isn't there?
Exactly. When you push the button, it's 20 seconds. And so what happens, there's 4 buttons you can push. There's one when you begin to cross, there's 2 in the middle, and then there's 1 at the end. So when you push the button initially, 20 seconds. But sometimes it takes more than 20 seconds because there's a bunch of kids that are crossing. So somebody should push it in the middle for another 20 seconds and then at the end. And then this is something that everybody has to work on, which would be the kids, the drivers. And this could have never been done if it wasn't for the businesses, for the kids, District U46, the city. It takes everybody. Safety is first.
Parents and the guardian must rest a little easier knowing their kids, if they do it right, they can cross easily.
Absolutely, absolutely. And that's the goal. these are things that even once I'm not in the city anymore, it's going to keep on going, continues.
Yeah.
These are things that we're looking for. And this is important to explain to people because I had asked this girl, I said, where do you go to school? And she says, to Larkin. And I was really proud. And I said, hey, what do you think about the crosswalk? She was really upset. She says, I feel like you're keeping us in a jail or something. Like you are keeping us away from everything else. And I'm like, oh, no, that's further from the truth. I said,
right.
This is really for safety,
Yeah.
And so once I explained to her, she was like, really, is that it? And I said, yes.
Well,
and
good.
she hugged me and she was glad, But, that's why we have to talk.
Yeah.
We have to explain to people. This is the reality.
That's the way it is.
Obviously, as somebody who doesn't drive,
Yeah.
and she was just thinking of the moment. She wasn't thinking of
Yeah.
the whole complete picture of what we're trying to do.
We're as safe as we can be here. You can hear the roar of the cars. Larkin High School, right on the right, Larkin Avenue right there. And we say safety first. Thanks. The Elgin nature is beautiful. We have the brain trust of this event. Sherry Blazier, Judy Hayner. Sherry, how'd you come up with this idea?
Oddball Art Labs, who had an absolutely wonderful exhibit here from May until the end of the summer, was leaving, and I thought, what are we going to replace it with? And,
that right?
and we had a photography exhibit a couple of years ago, and I really liked we have so much talent in this town,
Great.
photographers, and I thought, how about nature, the nature
great.
of Elgin?
What an opening night it is. The folks are loving this, aren't they?
It's really a good show. It's a good turnout, too. The community's come out, and I'm glad to see everybody here.
Judy and Sherry, of course, this will be here to the end of the year. Is that right?
That's correct. We do have somewhat limited open hours for the rest of the year because we mostly concentrate on school programs on the weekdays, but we are open to the public Saturdays and Sundays, 12 to 4.
It's great when you see this. It's a good emotional moment, isn't it?
I think it's very relaxing to look at nature, and of course we are in lovely Lord's Park, but you can come in here and see more nature. Beautiful birds, too. Beautiful bird photographs.
And the pictures have captured red foxes in the backyard and so many different things, haven't
Well, yes, that's actually my own backyard, my husband's photograph.
they? So that red fox just drops in whenever he wants, is that right?
Yeah, he's on the near west side. We've had foxes there for years.
That's always a great moment. That's a good prop to have in the backyard.
Absolutely perfect. And, to me, the point of this exhibit is we have so much wildlife in Elgin, and we don't pay attention to it. But these photographers do, and they capture absolutely wonderful images of them, and it makes you go, really? There's that in Elgin? I guess I better keep my eyes open better,
so
you know?
true. It's the October edition of our Mayor Captain segment. Mayor, we've got a very important segment for this October. A lot of information. Get right to it.
Exactly, Jeff. This is a big event and big project within the city of Elgin. Last month, Mike Pubens and Mr. Freeman from EEI, or Environmental Enterprises Incorporated, Engineering, gave a presentation on the water supply in the city of Elgin and the issues facing us. So I've asked Mike to be with us today, and we want to start to educate the public. And this is going to go on for quite some time, having some conversations, but it's about some major things that are going to happen with our water supply to make sure that we can guarantee this for the next 40 or 50 years. And the first thing we want to talk about is the removal of the Kimball Street Dam. That's been a big thing in conversation. The Corps of Engineers report came out last month, and what that means to the city and our water intake. So, Mike, take it away. Let us know what's going on here.
Yeah, Mike, you're the man.
Well, thank you.
You and the mayor.
Me and the mayor. So, so our concern is with the removal of the dam, obviously, or many people know, I think, that the dam provides a pool with which we get 70% of our drinking water. So the removal of that dam will lower the depth of water in the river that's available for us to draw from. That provides challenges to us during periods of low flow on the river. So, as the mayor said, the report was released last month. We're looking at that. We're trying to balance the needs of a good ecological system, good ecological habitat with good human habitat, right? We need to have water. So as part of that, we're looking at the intake structure and how we can improve our opportunities to still get water from the river.
Because it would be the water level would be too low, you say, like 700 feet.
That's
or something
correct.
Like
You
that.
won't be able to draw the water out of the river. So there are some options to do, and we're going to have to look at all of those. Still in the process of doing that, and you have to crunch the numbers. And there's some field testing still to be done That'll be done here shortly. But I think one of the things, we look at this whole supply. The important thing from the city standpoint is we have to provide water for everybody every day. And if we can't, if there's a problem, we have to have a backup source, and that's been wells for some time. That's the other issue that we have to face, the other big issue. Many of the wells are old, and we're going to have to drill some new ones. As we continue to grow, we have to maintain the water supply, but the wells themselves cannot provide us enough water during the course of the day to provide that needed capacity. And I look at what if we have a long-term drought for 2 weeks or 3 weeks? How do we
this summer we had?
How do we provide that water when now we don't have a reservoir anymore to feed our water supply? So Mike's got some ideas, and they've come back with some plans for providing new wells.
All right. Well, this is your venue right now, young man.
Right. So, sir, that would include both rehabilitation of our current wells. Like I said, they supply about 30% of our water right now. They can supply more, but not the entire amount. So, in addition to rehabilitating the existing wells, we're looking at developing new wells that will be able to make up some of that water that we might lose.
Would that be costly?
That would be costly. An individual well right now can run upwards of $1 million, depending on how deep it is and size of the motor and pump, right? Lots of variables, but they're very expensive. So, it's one of the options we're looking at to try to find the right balance of Fox River water and groundwater. As we all know, there's been a lot of discussion in the last decade or so about the limited viability of aquifers to provide everybody's drinking water. So that's not an unlimited resource, and it won't be an unlimited resource. So, again, we're taking all that into account. As part of that as well, the city has a very old water main system in parts of town, and we're currently replacing less than 1% of that system. Our goal is to replace 1%, so that's every 100 years we'd turn over the entire system.
Oh, wow.
It's a long time, right? But water main will last that long. Unfortunately, right now we're putting in about $3 million a year to do that. Our projections are that's about $15 million per year. Wow. So as we work through this water study, we look at supply, we look at delivery, we look at treatment, we look at everything. It's also going to include a look at the rates, and we'll be proposing a rate study to the council and the mayor here very soon, but that'll be part of it to see what the impacts on rates will have to be to accomplish all these tasks.
Lots of things to talk about. You talked about the intake valve. Now, how much would it cost if it has to be raised?
If we have to do the water intake on the river,
move it up.
They had 2 or 3 different ideas that could conceivably work. We don't know which one the best one is going to be. Could involve moving the intake to a deeper portion on the other side of the river from where it's at. It could involve, there's a natural structure out there that may be able to be used to help hold the water back and create enough depth. But that's one of the studies that we have to do as part of the integrity of the process. But again, what we do has to work. Well, the decision we make has to work, and it's important that we look towards the future. This has been going on since we've been using river water since the early 80s, 40 years. And the decision was made because the aquifer was being pumped down. We were taking all groundwater, and that has not changed. If we can't go back on groundwater because we just do the same thing. We'd be reliving the past. And that's not the best idea either. So we have to come up with some other options. One other thing that's, you start to look at these kind of projects and these problems, and you find other things that you didn't count on. And you don't. One of the things that when Mike talked about the depth of these, we're down 1,500 feet for some of these wells. It costs a lot of money to pump that water from 1,500 feet back up to the surface. One of the reasons they went to the Fox River is because it's at water level. Yeah. You only got to go 200 feet, and it's at the same elevation, so it's much cheaper to pump out of the Fox River than it is to pull that water from 1,500 feet. And those are things that have to be determined in the rate increases and the rate that we pay. Energy costs are a big thing. We always have to look at that as well. So it's not just as simple as what it sounds to do this. The construction project is the dam removal is something that is the community is going to have to talk about, and we'll have to have a discussion about that. Do we want to do that? We have other issues to deal with. We have lead service lines that all have to be removed. We have to look at the longer that goes, we may have to change the chemical feed that we have for treating water. And big impacts to the city, more costs. The world is different, and things are starting to mount up. The total cost for this, Mike, maybe you can give them a ballpark number, but the projection here for us is not to even begin to do the river for 5 or 6 years. So what's the anticipated cost for all of these things as a package?
Let's hear a number, young man. We'll put you on the spot.
Boy,
$10.
thank you, Mayor. Well, I'll start with if we're to, you had asked about building a new water intake. To do that, we'd have to put it on the other side of the river. That would be $18 million is our projections now. Lead service lines to do the entirety of the community is $150 million. Wow. So we're talking hundreds of millions of dollars. Now, this isn't all in 1 year, obviously. It's spread out over many years to do these things. So I'm a little hard-pressed to give a firm number right now.
Sure.
But
we know it'll be big.
The scope is in the hundreds of millions to do everything. And again, just water main replacements, that's $15 million per year, every year. So that wouldn't be a one-time thing. So every year, $15 million to continue to replace the water main system.
Folks are always wondering about, Mayor, what you
Go ahead. And, it's hard to predict now because the timeline is so long on these things, and costs are just going to keep going up and up and up. So it's something that we'll have to struggle through, but we just want to make sure that people are aware that this is out there. We're going to be having this discussion with staff and our engineering, and we have people that will be coming in to look at rates. And this will be ongoing, but it is going to be costly. And the federal government is not really good at bringing us a lot of money to do these things. Almost all, we have a special.
You're on your own.
We have an enterprise fund, and all of these things are paid through bonds. We'll take out a bond and pay for this, so we can get $15 million worth of work done in 1 year. We would take out a bond for $15 million, and then the rate would pay for the bond.
Would we take everything down in 2028? Would the project begin then?
That was the proposal from the Corps of Engineers. I don't see it can't go much before that. I don't think. I just don't see that kind of thing happening. And all of this, and Mike's plate is huge, but he's got a pretty full plate. As part of this, don't forget, right next to the Kimball Street Dam is the Kimball Street Bridge replacement.
Yeah.
And we try to do these things, and your best hope is that you can do it the most efficient and do them at the same time. Is there a way to do that? Well, I don't know. Well,
wasn't there
we have to other people smarter than me to figure that out.
Wasn't it 2026 for one of the bridges? That time frame.
I think that's when it started. Yeah, we have Kimball Street and Chicago Street. So all of this stuff is coming at us all at the same time.
We're down to about a minute. Folks are always concerned, what would happen to Walton Island if the dam is going?
One of the things that changes, and I went through this 20 years ago in Batavia, one of the things that changes is I always look at it when the water flows over the dam, it's kind of nice and flat. But when we take the dam out, it's going to be going through a much smaller area. Mm-hmm. So the velocity, the same amount of water is going to come down the river every day, but the velocity will change to get that water through. One of the concerns from the Corps of Engineers was the riverbank on the west side of the river below the dam may have to be reinforced or protected because it could get scoured by the velocity of the water. Wow. And Walton Island could be at jeopardy because of the velocity of the water, not necessarily the amount, but just the velocity.
It would float to St. Charles.
Well, don't forget, it's already done that a couple times, so it wouldn't be the first time or the last time. So.
All right, well, Mike, we appreciate all your information. This is a big story, isn't it?
It is a big story, and we certainly don't want to scare people or to make them think that the end is near. It's a long-term process. We're looking at it. Certainly going to be a lot more discussions. We'll be coming back to council in the spring with some recommendations that will include the impacts to rates, and we'll want to have a lot of conversation about this and a lot of input. So.
And Mayor, your office getting all the information out to the citizens. They can.
We're going to do our best to do that. We want to make sure the community's involved with it and they keep up to date because at the end of the day, the bottom line is the cost and the community will pay for a big portion of that.
All right. Well, thanks, Mike. We appreciate that.
You're very welcome.
Mayor, you get some rest. Are you sleeping at night all right, aren't you?
Well, Mike caused me a few restless nights, but we'll get through it, and we're going to, again, we'll get the best people we can to make these decisions, help us make the decisions, and hopefully at the end of the day, we'll do the right thing.
We've just concluded our busiest segment with Mayor David Captain's segment here for October. Thanks for being with us.
Nos encontramos en Festival Park. Por si acaso no han llegado a venir a este parque, tienen que venir especialmente si tienen niños, porque atrás de nosotros tienen en sí un parque que realmente todo el mundo, hasta nosotros mismos, nos encanta subir y subirnos en diferentes actividades. Te recuerda cuando eres niño, ¿no? Creo que siempre tenemos una niñez que siempre nos sale, ¿no?
Sí, claro que sí.
Sí, definitivamente.
Creo que es algo que siempre tenemos que tratar de convivir, y con eso ahora tenemos dos amiguitas bien involucradas en la comunidad, que ustedes siempre son bien activas, hacen tantas cosas, y realmente tienen aquí un poquito de información. Dinos un poquito quién eres y en sí qué organización perteneces.
Claro, gracias Elisa por invitarme. Mi nombre es Lidia Santapaña, yo soy gerente de servicios familiares para el YWCA Metropolitan Chicago.
Un poquito largo la organización, ¿no?
Sí, claro que sí. Hay otro YWCA aquí en Elgin, pero nosotros somos Metropolitan Chicago.
¿Qué es Head Start? Sabemos que es para los niños, pero ¿qué edades? ¿Quién puede calificar? ¿A quién puede mandar qué niños? O sea, tienen que tener ciertas cualificaciones.
Sí, claro que sí. Para los programas con nosotros en asociación con los childcares que están en la comunidad, tienen que tener 12 elegibilidades. La primera es, tienen que calificar para el programa de ayuda de asistencia del Estado para pagar para el cuidado de sus niños, y la segunda es, tienen que calificar para el programa de Head Start. De la forma que califican para el programa de Head Start, tienen que ser familias de bajos recursos. Tienen que estar trabajando o yendo a la escuela full time y tienen que tener bajos recursos. Les hacemos muchas preguntas para poder saber si sí califican. Así que si aún no son de bajos recursos o piensan que no son de bajos recursos, queremos saber y saber qué es lo que podemos hacer y cómo poderlos asistir si tienen que ir a otro lugar.
¿Y una persona cómo se inscribe? ¿Con quién hablan? ¿Dónde se pueden ir para que agarren más información?
Muy buena pregunta. Tenemos trabajadoras de familias que están asignadas a cada de esos centros, y ellas trabajan con esas familias para platicar y saber si sí califican para el programa. Y ahí es donde empieza la plática. Necesitamos lo mismo que se necesita para ir a la escuela, ¿verdad? Un examen físico, un examen dental, y en esa plática hablamos de lo que necesita.
Eso les ayuda mucho a los niños, ¿no? Para que se empiecen a preparar y no esperemos hasta la última hora que digamos, a ver dónde caen, y hacerlo rápido y que tomen en sí ventaja de estos programas.
Claro que sí, y esa es exactamente la meta de Head Start, es ayudar a que nuestros niños estén listos para el futuro en su educación. Pero nosotros cuando pensamos en esa meta, no pensamos nada más en el niño, sino que pensamos en la familia también. Por eso es de que tenemos
eso me encanta, sí,
de familia, exactamente. Sí. Agarramos a toda la familia, porque ¿cómo podemos servirle al niño si no estamos ayudando a los papás también?
Sí. Y realmente es un gran apoyo que de verdad se necesita mucho, y a veces no sabemos ni que necesitamos ayuda adicional. Y cuando viene alguien y nos hace preguntas, ¿sabes qué? Te podemos ayudar en esto. Y he visto mucho eso, y creo que es una gran ventaja que den esa información, porque les va a ayudar.
Claro que sí, sí. Nos gustaría que nos llamen por teléfono. El número es 312-219-1707. Una trabajadora de familias le contestará, o si no le contestan, le regresan la llamada. Nuestras trabajadoras de caso hablan español, así que no tengan vergüenza, llamen aquí, nosotros hablamos su lenguaje y nos encantaría trabajar con esas familias. Actualmente tenemos 2 centros aquí en Elgin. Uno está en el YMCA, que está en el 50 Sur McLean, y tenemos cupos abiertos ahorita. Estaría bueno, si están buscando cuidado para sus niños, llámenos y los podemos.
No tienen que vivir por esa área.
No hay cosa de que tengan que vivir en el área, no.
Muy bien, muy bien. Y dinos un poquito también, ¿cómo te llamas y qué organización?
Hola, mucho gusto, Elisa. Yo me llamo Andrea Vargas, soy parte de Elgin Partnership for Early Learning y soy la coordinadora de familias y comunidad aquí en Elgin. Nosotros nos enfocamos con familias que tienen niños de 0 a 5 años para que sus niños estén listos y felices para kindergarten.
Y en sí, realmente, si una persona quiere ser parte de esta organización, ¿hay una inscripción o cómo se empiezan a involucrar?
Bueno, ahorita estamos promoviendo un programa Head Start que está aquí en Elgin también, se llama Two Rivers Head Start aquí de Elgin, y también están aceptando niños que tienen entre 3 y 5 años, y está ubicada en la calle de Aldine, aquí en Elgin.
¿Y realmente qué hacen los niños ahí? ¿Es como un día de cuidado? ¿Qué exactamente es?
Sí, los programas Head Start promueven el desarrollo y las habilidades infantiles. Entonces, por ejemplo, las habilidades motoras que necesitan para cuando empiecen kindergarten, como agarrar un lápiz para que puedan escribir.
Son diferentes apoyos que creo que se necesita tanto. Vamos a involucrar a los niños, a tenerlos preparados, porque creo que es bien importante. Y si tienen alguna duda o pregunta, pueden hablarle con una de las dos chicas, porque realmente es algo que tenemos que asegurar que nuestros niños tengan ese amor, la pasión para la escuela, y incluso cuando vienen a jugar, ahí tienen tácticas, ¿no? Para que vayan creando esa curiosidad de querer leer. A veces veo que tienen como historias que van poniendo en los caminos, ¿no?
Sí, claro, hacen muchas actividades y es muy importante también que los papás se envuelvan. Hay muchas formas de que se puedan envolver. Tenemos eventos donde tenemos padres que vienen y toman clases con nosotros de diferentes tópicos o temas. Y también tenemos opciones para liderazgo también para los papás en Head Start.
Que nos desarrollamos los niños y nosotros también. Es que si tienen alguna pregunta, aseguren comunicarse con ellas. Les dieron la información. Esperemos verlo pronto. Gracias. Hasta luego.
Hasta luego.
Nos encontramos en un tesoro aquí de South Elgin, que es el club de 5,000 de Boys and Girls Club. Y estamos con nosotros la presidenta del comité de la mesa directiva, Rosie. Rosie, dinos un poquito qué significa ser el de parte del club, porque ese es algo muy importante, el club de los 5,000 de Boys and Girls Club.
Sí, nosotros estamos ayudando a los niños que se desarrollen para que se sientan apoyados por adultos, que tengan un lugar seguro, para que tengan comida y un lugar donde ir después de la escuela en vez de estar en la calle.
Sí, pero el club, que digan 5,000, quiere decir muchas cosas en el aspecto para las personas que sepan de Boys and Girls Club. ¿Qué quiere decir eso?
Tenemos 5,000 clubes en todo Estados Unidos que están ayudando a los niños y nosotros estábamos designados el 5,000 Club y tuvimos una celebración en abril donde tuvimos a Denzel Washington que llegó.
¡El actor!
A hacer una gran celebración. Que abrimos las puertas aquí en enero de este año.
Eso es algo nuevo que acaban de decir y el apoyo que tienen en sí. Denzel Washington quiere decir mucho. Y aquí, como estaba recalcando, que es para los estudiantes que quieren en sí desarrollarse. A veces vienen aquí después de la escuela.
Sí, y tenemos programas con las escuelas también, donde tenemos 34 sitios en varias comunidades. Aquí empezamos en Elgin en 1993, noviembre, entonces estamos celebrando 30 años y ya estamos expandiendo a Aurora. Tenemos a Hanover Park, Schaumburg y Streamwood. Si vamos a hacer el gala, va a ser el 7º gala en noviembre 11 de este próximo mes.
De noviembre.
De noviembre, perdón, sí, y estamos celebrando en ese evento los 30 años de estar aquí en esta comunidad y estamos invitando a todos que nos vengan a asistir y pueden atender a este evento. Estamos buscando apoyo de todos en la comunidad. El evento que tenemos en noviembre 11 va a ser el gala, es el 7º gala que hemos tenido y es la mayor fundación de todos los programas que tenemos para los niños aquí.
Va a ser una gala para recaudar fondos. Las personas que quieren participar, si acaso no pueden asistir, ustedes aceptan donaciones, me imagino.
Sí, también pueden ir al enlace, el mismo enlace para hacer una donación. Pero estamos muy emocionados porque tenemos a Justin Roman y Kenzie, que Justin Roman fue el locutor de los toros, de los bulls, y también estaba en la radioestación B96 por muchos años. Ahora tiene un show MVP que es el Marquee Network con los Cubs, y él y su esposa van a ser los maestros de ceremonia para este evento.
Es que si se vienen, van a estar entre la crema y la nata, porque realmente ha venido Denzel Washington en el pasado, ahora viene otra persona que viene del baloncesto de los Bulls, que realmente es muy ideal, que son personas que vienen a apoyar, y realmente si quisiéramos que los ayudara, ¿no? Para venir a la gala, que sería en el Q Center, que está en St. Charles.
Sí, en St. Charles. Va a empezar a las 6 de la tarde esa noche. El tema va a ser diamantes y perlas.
Que se vengan bien lujosos.
Sí, muy lujosos, todo muy. Vamos a tener muchas cosas que vamos a dar de rifa y de diferentes modas que pueden participar.
Realmente, si tienen alguna pregunta, les vamos a tener el enlace aquí para que puedan ir al enlace para que agarren la información. Los esperamos porque es un gran apoyo. Si al caso no pueden asistir, una donación siempre va a ser bien recibida. Los vemos pronto. Hasta luego. For more information, please visit cityofelgin.org. Para más información, por favor visite nuestra página cityofelgin.org. Don't forget, for city services, call 311. Call, click, connect. Para servicios de la ciudad, no olvide llamar 311, llamar, conectar y textear.